Welcome. It's time for another episode of To the Moon with Voxx, the place where psychic phenomena meet science and world culture. And we are live from the Devil's Tower. So God knows what we're going to talk about today because we never know, do we?
No.
We just don't know. Somebody asked me on the way to the show, they said, "So, Voxx, what's the show about?" And I said, "Don't know." We'll see when we get there. Of course, since we do a lot of astrology on the show and stuff, basically, all I have to do to get myself riled up into a tizzy is to look at where any planet happens to be for the day. And then I can fly off the handle. Because basically, as a professional astrologer, I can assure you, at all times, the planets suck. So, there.
There you go.
I'm just going to explain on every show why they suck today and why there's probably nothing you can do about it.
Well, I would like to mention, if I may, I'm seeing that the moon is in Taurus. The moon right now is conjunct my natal moon in Taurus, same degree, right on top of it. And also Chiron's right there. Yeah, so I mean, I feel like I kind of have a nice moon aspect happening. What do you think?
Well, it's nice for you, but you were just really annoyed as hell about 15 minutes ago. So there you go. Yeah, the moon's exalted in the sign of Taurus because the moon in and of itself, yes, it is a planet. Yeah, I know it's an asteroid, but in astrology, we just call them planets. And the moon is always fluctuating. It's waxing, it's waning, it's full, it's new. It's got technically 4 phases. So it's always all over the place. And even to describe it further, the word that goes along with the moon is lunatic, and that explains it all. So when Luna is in Taurus, the first fixed Earth sign, it has more stability.
Oh, that's why she's exalted in Taurus.
Exactly.
The much needed stability. Can I say something real quick, Voxx? Wayne is on the show. We have a guest today, our first guest.
Yay! Wayne.
Hey, Wayne.
Hey.
Wayne is a man with a Masonic background.
Yes, I do.
So he knows how to lay bricks.
Yeah, I do. Actually, though, that's an actual Mason. A master Mason probably doesn't know. Well,
Wayne, wasn't that your first job with your dad? Was laying bricks?
Well, actually, it was. Yes, it was.
Yeah, I remember that story.
Yeah.
Oh my God! So I think that means I'm psychic.
Oh my God!
You know that Jeremy never told me that.
No, I didn't tell her that. That's true.
No, you didn't.
Well, we're glad to have you on, Wayne.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Thanks for being
so
here.
Far.
So far.
Oh yeah, the night is young.
Oh.
But here's the deal. Also, you just said that you are a Taurus, born under the sign of Taurus, and the moon's in Taurus, and Jeremy's got an exact placement in Taurus. And that's really interesting because this was not planned.
No, and he's a Cancer rising, Voxx.
In fact, about an hour ago, Jeremy said, "Oh yeah, by the way, Wayne's going to be on the show. Are you okay with that?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Yeah, come on."
Well, I told Wayne last week. I asked him, and he said, "Yeah, and I forgot to tell you, Voxx."
Well, there you go.
Oh well.
Psychically, I knew.
So Wayne. So to give a little bit of context to this, so speaking with Wayne over the last few weeks about the show, Wayne, a friend of the show who's listened to every episode.
Yeah.
He brought up the fact that I was ham-fistedly confusing the Holy Grail with the Ark of the Covenant, which I then realized was true.
Right.
So,
guess
me.
What? That's just splitting hairs, really.
You think?
Yeah, because they were looking for the Ark of the Covenant. They were looking for the Grail. Really clearly, the Catholics did not know how to hold on to anything, like you do. They kept losing everything. But my basic premise was that the Catholics were using, and the Templars were Catholic, okay?
Right.
They were just using religion to bust through the borders of all these different countries to, rape and pillage and pilfer and, steal and whatever else the heck they were doing.
And that's crazy for me to hear because I always thought of the Templars as the persecuted good guys. I've always thought that.
Well, they were the bankers.
Yeah.
The money changers, right, Wayne?
The money changers. And that's where everybody was afraid of.
Yeah, of the Catholic Church. But here, the reason why they became like you know, looked for and attacked was because they wound up getting more power than the Pope. And when he
Yes.
realized that he sent them out to, bring back all of the treasure, they were keeping it, they were doing whatever the hell they wanted to do, and the Pope lost control. So he put the kibosh, as they say, on the Templars.
And that's where Friday the 13th comes from.
Yes. And it's also kind of, always making everything about myself as usual with all my Leo planets. I was conceived and born in Ethiopia, right?
Wow.
And I was actually baptized in the church where supposedly the Ark of the Covenant is buried under the altar.
Yes.
I was baptized there.
I've heard about this church, by the way. I saw a documentary. What's that church? What's the name of it?
It was supposedly called St. Mark's Church.
I think they did sonograms of the ground there to look for it. And I think for some reason, by the way, I'm really off the cuff here. I think for some reason the earth underneath the church was not conducive to I'm not sure what the words are, but
basically sonar, yeah.
Yeah, but from what I remember, the earth underneath that church, which is odd, was not conducive to reflecting a pattern back. And so they still don't know what's underneath that church. And I think that's interesting by itself, It
is. It is. However, what also happened was people realized that the place was going to get raided at some point in the future. And then they took it out, and they have now placed it on some ungodly mountain in Ethiopia, which used to be actually called Abyssinia. And it's in a place where nobody could get it now, even if they tried. It's like a sheer cliff.
You mean they placed the church? They lifted the stones and foundation and moved the church?
No, they just took out the ark and moved the ark where it would be centered.
Who's they?
Now, yeah. You know who they are. It's always the same people, they.
Well, that ark has been lost and recovered several times.
Has it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
What's your story that you've heard, Wayne, about that?
Well, Moses, by God, that's from my dad teaching me this, was at Mount Sinai, and God gave him the dimensions of the ark, what he wanted it to be. The description of it, how it was going to be made, what the gold inlays, the cherubs on top, the poles that no one's supposed to touch the ark. That's why the wooden poles were inserted into it, because it will kill you if you touch it, if you're not authorized to do so. Mm-hmm. And then I was telling Jeremy when we talked about some other stuff is when Moses came off the mountain and he saw what had happened to the people and what they had done. He got so ticked off, he took the tablets from God and threw them and broke them on the idol. And it was the pieces of the original Ten Commandments that were placed in the ark.
I remember reading somewhere in the Bible where there were originally 15 laws, not 10.
Wait, there was fine print? Is that what this is?
Addendum 1 through 5.
There's a footnote.
Well, guess what? That means that Mel Brooks was right.
Yeah, when he dropped the third one, he said the 15th up 10 Commandments. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, and Mel's,
he's Jewish.
He would know.
Yeah, he would know. But they lost the ark in a battle to Philistines. Yeah, the Philistines. I think that's right.
I thought you were going to say Phyllis Diller.
They lost to the Phyllis Dillers. Then she won't give them up.
I knew something was shady about Phyllis Diller.
Oh no! But yeah, they had a battle with the Philistines, and they captured the ark. And
much to their chagrin.
Oh my gosh! Every place they took that ark, you had boils and plagues, and
I have a theory about this. You want to hear some crazy wacko theory from me?
Of course, and then I'm going to add mine to the mix.
Yeah. Continue. I'll be brief on mine. I have a feeling that what's inside the Ark of the Covenant is radioactive and probably a meteorite. And here's what I think. I think that they created something from something that fell from the sky as a symbol of God, whatever it might be. and I think it was a radioactive type meteorite that they fashioned a weapon out of. Let's say St. Michael's sword, the Archangel Michael's sword, or some type of cup or goblet or mortar and pestle. And people didn't understand radioactivity back then. So if they got close to it, let's say that the ark was lead lined because it's heavy, and that would contain it. But if you opened it, then you'd get the boil. You'd have the classic symptoms of radioactive sickness. It's what the Bible describes people would get if they got near it.
Now
Or no,
I'm
not the
pissed.
Bible. The Bible didn't
Yeah.
describe that, did it?
I'm pissed
Yes,
off
it did.
now
Yes, it did.
because that was my theory.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you didn't even know it, and I could just say that.
Well, it makes sense because it's classical radiation poisoning symptoms.
Well, they would say bolts of lightning would come out of it and kill people. So, I mean,
to be fair, he burned an acacia bush and they're prone to some, fantastic interpretations of reality back then too. They had nothing.
I've got a story about that, but getting back to the idea, I had that same thought many times. Now let's look at it symbolically. The two angels are spirits of air, and basically they're connotating that this thing came from air, goes to air, acts upon air, all right? And I always sense it was like some kind of battery, something that had a charge to it. Now, if it wasn't encased in lead, then it's just radiating all the time. But if it was encased in lead, that would indicate that whomever put it in there understood its toxic properties and knew how to protect it against, direct contact.
Right, because they would have known.
Either way you look at it, somebody somewhere contained it.
Right.
And it was toxic.
Well, we have this arrogance with our modern perspective that the ancients didn't know what we know because we have science and but they may not have had the same terms. They might have believed in alchemy versus whatever our modern day equivalent is, right? R&D for vaccines, chemistry.
The word chemistry actually comes from the ancient Arabic term al-chem, Chem, which means black, from the land of Chem, Egypt. And that's where alchemy came from, and that's where we have chemistry, literally.
Well, I think we make the mistake through some kind of hubris that people who came before us weren't as intelligent as us, and I would argue that's a huge oversight on our part, because just because they didn't have what we have, they didn't have it, but they didn't necessarily need it. They functioned in the time relative to the circumstances that they lived in, and I can easily see that somebody would realize putting something in lead would protect the people around them, whether by accident or whether that's planned. Wasn't lead a fundamental alchemical ingredient?
Yeah, it was one of the first ones, and that's the chemical / metal that they were always trying to turn into gold, which in and of itself is a total metaphor. Now I have something to interject here. I've been doing research my whole life on this stuff, talking to angels, people asking me questions, and they put me into a kind of a trance state, and I would get information. And this is about 12 years ago. My friend asked me, hey, how many times do you think the earth has been totally destroyed? Typical friend of Voxx that would ask a question like that. And I didn't even know what I was going to say. And I just blurted out 5 times. The entire earth has been destroyed 5 times. I can't prove what I'm saying, by the way. Well, anyway, a year later, a book comes out by this famous female scientist whose name escapes me at the moment. And the title of the book is called The Sixth Extinction. And she posits that the earth has been completely destroyed 5 times. And if we think about that, we'll realize the ancients were just the most recent ancients. There were ancients before that, however far back we can count. And those people or beings must have known up to a certain degree and certain level before they got wiped out. Same thing happened in this story of Atlantis.
Yeah.
They got hold of some huge laser that destroyed everything, a huge earthquake. So just because we're saying ancients, they may not have known this. I'm saying we've had knowledge a billion times superior to what we have right now that has been, quote unquote, lost.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's Elizabeth Kolbert, by the way, who wrote that book.
Thank you for that.
Yep. Let's give her credit where it's due. But I agree with that. There is no proof that they didn't have what we have today because it's all been wiped out. It's just the arrogance that we have to think that we're the big, or like we're the the best read, the most knowledgeable, the pinnacle of science and mathematics and astronomy, and just to assume that the people who came before, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, you guys.
Yep.
The Egyptians didn't accidentally do what they did with the pyramids. It wasn't a fluke.
But I will say, there have been pyramids discovered elsewhere in the world recently in Central America and also in China back in the late 90s that have been covered up by forests that predate the Egyptian pyramids by, I think, something like 4,000 years.
And that's nuts, because now you're talking 12,000 BC.
Very weird. Now I loved what you brought up, Jeremy, about the whole thing about Moses and the acacia bush, right?
Yeah.
I've thought of this many times.
He was high.
Because my mind goes here. But here's my thought, which is, all right, some guy goes up, and if I'm being insensitive to anybody's religion, I'm sorry, but I'm going to do it anyway. So imagine you're some old guy, you come down the mountain, and you're telling your buddies, like, hey, guess what? I just talked to God. Like, what kind of a mind fuck is that? Okay. And so his little buddy said, wow, that's amazing. What did he say? And boom, you got religion.
Yeah.
Because some person says they talk to God, just like I come out here on podcasts going, I talk to angels, and they tell me weird stuff, and it turns out to be true. What the heck do I know? So religion on its face, it's this really interesting way of controlling people by supernatural methods. And, not for anything, we haven't done too well with it.
No, because ultimately it's power in the hands of man who interprets it, and they'll always utilize it for their own gain or for power.
Yeah. So we think about it like, oh, wait, I can talk to God. What do you want me to tell him for you? And then you got people like Aleister Crowley and other religions that come out and say, no, just talk to God yourself. And they have parts in the Bible where Jesus supposedly is telling people, it only takes one person to talk to me. Just talk to me and then I will be there. Right? So who's deciding we need this middleman?
Right. We do. The mouthpiece of God, end quote.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Well, it's uniform. Every religion, right, that we can name ultimately has people who will profess to, and whether correctly or not, I'm not even making a value judgment on it, but will profess to be the interpreters of the book or of the scripture, and they will promulgate that to the masses. And throughout human history, at least recorded history, a large part of the populations of these ancient cultures couldn't read, so they would rely on the Catholic priest to tell them what the Bible said, and then they'd live by his word. That man was the most powerful man in the world for millennia.
Yeah.
And same with Islam and the imams. The people in Afghanistan cannot read. They can't. They don't have a need to read.
Hold on, there's a reason for that. And I unfortunately have discovered it on a personal level. Right, back in ancient times, in particular as well, the Jews, they had the 12 tribes, and the tribe of the Levites would be the priests. And like the word Levi literally means to levitate, like high, rise, right? So you only had certain people that were allowed to interpret the word of God, but they also were educated. And they had years and years of training and meditation and whatever the heck they did. And they were deemed fit vessels to be translators of that information. Now, look what's happened since then. Everybody and his brother now is supposedly psychic. Everybody and his brother is a preacher and a televangelist. Everybody and his brother can speak to God directly. But the problem is some of these people are skewing even those words and manipulating people with even less intelligence, less structure. So we have the educated who kept the poor people uneducated so they could be easier to manipulate.
Sure.
And now it's just a total disaster.
Sure, but it's all by design.
I think in any religion, it's that way. You can take any religion and twist it for good or evil.
Absolutely. And
it's part of the playbook. It's part of mankind's struggle for power. It's part of the playbook on how to control the population. You want to keep them stupid and ignorant. Look at the American public relative to our political options. Give me a fucking break. And I'm not going to go political here, but how can both of our options be so famously incredibly awful? How is there literally no voice of reason? They've orchestrated this. They keep the population ignorant. They divide us and put us against each other. right?
Yeah.
And so we're missing the real truth of it, which is I don't think that we have anything more going on in the United States other than a class war, poor versus rich. And I don't think they want the people to know that, because the people might unite against something so just nascently vile.
But this is the very nature of what's going on in the world right now. People aren't stupid. Okay, the word populus, Populus, ancient Latin word for the people, right? Populus in magic is the symbol for Cancer, the sign Cancer. The country was born under the sign of Cancer. The country was born under the sign of the quote unquote people. Now, you keep these people uneducated for this long, but you could never get away from dealing with their intuition. People know there's something wrong, but now they're so stupid and uninformed and uneducated, and willfully so on many levels. They don't know how to understand the conspiracy, but they can feel it. And so you can't deny that they're onto something. And if you look at the state of our country right now, it's in total disrepair. But people know that they've been lied to, but they can't prove it. They just can't prove it. And so what they're going to do is they're going to destroy the whole situation. And that's exactly what they're doing. But what they don't understand ultimately, I mean, including with the vaccines, is there is a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy to annihilate the ignorant.
But wait, I have a problem with that, if I can cut in real quick.
Yeah, feel
I have a
free.
problem with that. When I hear people say things like this, and I've heard it before, I'm not saying it's false either. The problem I have with that is I don't see the benefit of killing off your tax base, right? I would think you'd want as many idiots as possible to take advantage of, so you can tax them and become wealthy off their labor and off their work.
Yeah, that's a good point. However, how many people are actually working?
Yeah, it's the idiots that aren't working. Some of them.
Well,
I understand your point, Jeremy, but what I'm saying is there is a conspiracy. The conspiracy wasn't started to get rid of stupid people, but now it's clear that the very people that need the vaccine are the people that aren't getting it. They're now been talking about letting in something like 10 million immigrants, and they are not demanding that they get vaccinated.
Yeah, and that's a weird political boondoggle.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what to think about that. You know,
No,
and
but
plus there's something that we should mention on the show. It's not a vaccine. Let's get this out of the way. The CDC has already published the white paper. It is not a vaccine in the traditional sense of the word vaccine. A traditional vaccine will allow your body to build antibodies to resist the proliferation of a virus, period. That's not a debatable definition. What this
Right.
is gene therapy that reduces the symptoms of the illness. Now, don't take me at my word. In fact, I'll put the CDC link in chat later so that we have it. This is not a vaccine. This is gene therapy to reduce symptoms. In other words, it has no noticeable effect on the spread of the virus or the what's the opposite of spread?
containment.
Thank you. It has nothing to do with either of those factors. So people are laboring under illusion to begin with. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer by any means. I think you should get it. Absolutely. But this is not even a true vaccine. So when we're talking about the people being manipulated by virtue of their own ignorance, there it is right there. Just the word vaccine gives people a false sense of what this thing really is. And I'm not anti the vaccine either, but
Right.
I'm absolutely a realist. And I could give a fuck about the symptoms. I'm glad I won't cough as much. How about you guys come up with something real that gives people an actual immunological defense against what's happening right now? And they're not doing that. And they're cloaking it under the word vaccine. Sorry for the tirade.
No, that's fine. But this goes back 5 years. A good friend of mine, Stephen Colburn, great ufologist, biochemical engineer par excellence. I think you've met him, possibly, Jeremy. Anyway, we were talking about 5 years ago, and he asked me if I knew about FEMA importing 5,000 plastic coffins. And I'm like, no, I haven't heard about this. So apparently there was some weird thing that was going, this is 5 years ago. There's no evidence of that anymore. And I'll let you know that there have been things that I actually took screenshots of in Wikipedia, all over Google, that these links and this information is no longer accessible. But I thought this is really weird. So we were paying attention. Then in a totally strange, unrelated incident, I read where this scientist had created this lab somewhere off on one of the islands off of New York City where they were experimenting in a totally separate event. came to my awareness, where they were digging up the victims of the Spanish flu from 1918. And the first thought that goes through my mind is, what the hell are they doing?
God, do not bring that back.
Well, guess what? They did. And check this out. It escaped a lab off of close to Hart Island, right, where they dug all the victims up. Mysteriously, this particular scientist then went over literally to Wuhan. It escaped. I do believe they were going to release it on purpose, but I don't believe that happened. I feel it was somewhat accidental. Now, here's what's really bizarre. So they unleashed the virus, and guess what happens in New York City that got hit really hard? They had bodies piled up in refrigeration trucks, and guess where they buried them?
On Hart Island.
Hart Island.
Really?
How weird is that?
Oh boy, I don't want the Spanish flu to come back, guys. Hopefully everybody's aware of just how dangerous that was. I think the mortality rate of the Spanish flu was higher than the hantavirus. I think it was something like 78%.
Well, it was higher than that, but here's where I'm getting at. That's what this is in a mutated form. I have recordings, at least 3,000 hours worth of recordings with various clients, students, and producers from various different friendships that I have that heard me outlay every single thing that happened on a pre-recorded tape, okay? Proof of everything that I said would happen like within 3 days after. It was off the charts. So I'd say, oh, wait till it hits Brazil. Okay, we know what happened there. Oh, wait till it hits India. I said, that's going to be a real disaster. Well, 3 months later, that happened. I told her, it's going to throw everything into unrest. I said, wait till they burn down Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills. She goes, don't be ridiculous. That happened. So it's just like unrolling a red carpet of disaster. And it's way far from over. And the thing that I agree with you, Jeremy, about this, calling it a vaccine is very disingenuous. I know exactly that what they're really doing is manipulating our human systems in our bodies. I know that. But whoever does not go on board with it will be wiped out. Now, you and I know we can edit the hell out of this show.
Yeah.
And probably 90% of everything we just said isn't going to make the cut.
I hope it gets in there.
Yeah, we're not here to be political. But
No.
as soon as we talk about where the planets are, I told you, the whole show will roll out.
Yeah.
It's almost like we can't stop it.
The planets are the agenda.
Yeah. So there is a conspiracy. Yes, they are manipulating humanity with these DNA manipulations. Absolutely. But guess what? Get the fuck off the planet, because you won't be here.
So,
you will not be here.
I have a couple of... Oh, Wayne, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I mean, one of the things that Jeremy and I talked several months back was when this thing during the COVID, when it was fully going, I'd read a book on unrestricted warfare written by 2 colonels from China, talking about how they would attack the United States monetarily, or through computers.
Right.
And since they're not a big, they don't have the missiles like we do or like Russia does. I mean, they have them, but they don't have as much. They're not as powerful militarily as we are. So they knew that, they're being the Chinese philosophers, we can't go against the big guy with the big stick. So we're going to do it this way. You chop them off at the ankles.
That's right.
The 40-year plan or something like
yes,
that.
Yes, it's called the unrestricted warfare, and it's just how they're going to break down the United States and one of the big superpowers.
And you have to think I'll speak for myself here in this hypothetical universe I'm about to occupy. I would take the same tactic. If you're not big enough to take on the big guy, you take him from the side, you flank him, or you take out his supply lines, i.e. our economy.
Right.
You attack them obliquely. If you can't take them head on. I think that's tried and true. And don't forget, Confucius had all this shit written down thousands of years ago, right?
Yeah, and so did Alexander the Great. He was the guy who came up with the flanking.
Yeah, flanking maneuvers.
Yeah.
All praise to that guy, man.
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable. But, where we're going with this, we are going into like a really strange time in history, and it's not pleasant. And I just know what the options are few. Now, I remember, I'm sure Wayne doesn't know this, but I know Jeremy does, is my father was one of the greatest psychics ever. It was unbelievable. Even his biography, which I wrote like 600 pages, the guy was just like unbelievable. But the idea is one day I walked into his room. I used to film him all the time. And he's just sitting in his chair, rocking back and forth. He goes, yeah, the end's going to come from China. And I said,
Yep.
oh no, blah, blah, blah. Nostradamus said it's going to be this and that. And he goes, no.
From the East, Middle East.
Yeah. And he said, basically you're going to wake up and you're going to be, boiling noodles and, speaking Chinese. And I'm like, no, Dad, no. And then after this thing happened, I was like, oh my God, here we go.
Here we go.
One of the side things here, and I think you'll appreciate this, Wayne, especially from a biblical standpoint, which I read the Bible and I have a lot of good things to say about it. The idea that they're using the Havana syndrome, you know what that's all about?
I'm not familiar with that one.
You will be right now. They have all of these diplomats that were hanging out different embassies, and they all started getting really sick across the board. And it turns out that there's some kind of sound that they were manipulating people with and driving them insane. They were committing suicide, and it's now called the Havana syndrome. That's one aspect of what I'm talking about. The second one, I think, is straight out of Revelations. We are now killing people using sound.
Wow.
And I'm considering that that's one of the seals that gets broken in end times or in the apocalypse.
Yep.
They're just going to kill people with sound.
Hey, wait. I'm sorry if I can cut in real quick.
Yeah.
I am familiar with Havana syndrome, and it was literally an Occam's razor type thing, which is what else? And it was specifically affecting American diplomats in Cuba only. And this is true. And this is just a few years ago, maybe Voxx, 5-6 years ago?
It's still happening.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me either. But it also doesn't surprise me it's not front and center in our media, which it probably should be. But I wanted to say something because Wayne just said 7 seals. I don't know anything about this. 7 seals of what?
In the Bible.
In the Bible.
No, I understand it's biblical, but what? Like, what are the 7 seals?
Oh, Voxx would probably remember more about that. That's New Testament. I don't know.
Because
there were 7 seals. I mean,
all right, there's 7 signs.
7 signs, 7 signs, 7 seals.
7, the 7 seals of Revelation.
Right,
so
there you go. 7
my favorite
seals of
book of the
Revelation.
Bible since I was a kid.
I feel like Revelations is like an extended warranty for the King James Version Bible. I can just throw it on at the end and like, this will be forever.
So, anyway, the first seal, you have the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And they open up the 7 seals. And the first seal is opened by the being who rides the white horse, who speaks of peace. Let's see where it is. He's given a crown, blah, blah, blah.
The Antichrist.
Is he the one on the white horse? I thought Death rode a white horse.
Well,
no, that's something different.
That's something different.
Let's see.
Oh, that's Bhagavad Gita, isn't it?
Yeah, hold on. No.
My bad.
By the way, Jeremy, you're completely correct. The Hindu scripture talks about the being Kalki, Kalki, who is the last incarnation of Buddha, and he comes riding a white horse, bearing a sword, and destroying everything. So
what's his problem?
How should I explain this? All right, there's the thing called the Great Wheel. And it is a time period in ancient Hindu scripture which lasts 25,000 years per era. Right now, we are in the Kali era. It's called the Kali Yuga.
Kali, the destroyer, right?
Kalki is the destroyer, but Kali is the goddess of death, and she also is a destroyer. But here's the deal: we are in her age. We are coming up to the end of the age of the Kali Yuga.
Like when?
Some people say we just entered it, but I don't believe that. I believe we're closer to the end of it than anything. I think the beginning of the Kali Yuga was the nuclear testing and the bombs that went up.
Well, hell, for Oppenheimer to quote the Bhagavad Gita during nuclear testing is a bit of an onus, right?
Each one of these years equals 25,000. Each one of those years equals 25,000 human years. Okay. And then just like the Mayan calendar, it starts all over again, which makes sense because we're sitting there asking about how many times has the earth been destroyed, blah, blah, blah.
Now, Wayne, when you were a Scientologist, did you guys ever talk about
I was never a Scientologist. I'm going to hurt you. I know where you live.
That's true.
Oh, yeah, snakes in the mailbox.
That's right.
Whatever.
I'll come and get you. Well, it's really funny where, like the Battle of Jericho, that's, where they first brought the ark out to fight,
Yeah.
and there was like armed men with 7 priests sounding 7 trumpets of ram horns. Remember that?
We know all about the 7 trumpets, Wayne.
Yep. And then they're
interesting. The number 7 seems so
7. Yep.
Seems so entrenched in everything,
So when they blew the horns, the ark compressed the city 7 times.
I found it. Basically, they are called also the plagues and the bowls. But every time one of the seals is broken, one of the bowls appears that's full of these events. So the first bowl is the sores and the plagues and all this. The second sign is the sea turns to blood. The third one.
Is that famine?
No, they have it the same. You know what? I'm gonna have to I've read this a billion times. I actually even know what the hell they are. I'm gonna look up the 7 trumpets because they herald all the different things.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, look up the first trumpet. The first trumpet of one of the horsemen that reveals all this stuff. The first trumpet in Revelations is the sound of the first trumpet is mingled with fire and blood thrown upon the earth. And it says burning up burning up a third of the trees on the planet and all green grass. I think we're there right now.
We're there. We're there. We're doing that now.
Yeah. Then the second trumpet, with the sounding of the second trumpet, described as a great mountain burning with fire. That's a volcano. Clearly. And this says, soon after, a third of all sea life and a third of all ships will be destroyed. Well, there's a ton of ships that are now moored forever thanks to the virus. Plus, a lot of the sea life is already not only disappearing, but Japan said that we're going to be out of fish in like less than 10 years. You get the third trumpet. And this is what's really interesting. I've been fascinated with this one. Is the sounding of the third trumpet is called a great star called wormwood falls to the earth, poisoning a third of the planet's freshwater sources and rivers and springs. Now, wormwood, I did a lot of research on. Wormwood is sacred to the sign of Scorpio, and we all know what happens in that sign. It's death and destruction and forced transformation. Then we got the fourth trumpet, which is a third of the light that shines from the sun, moon, and stars will become dark from the celestial bodies being struck. Those kind of things sound very much like a meteor or series of meteors or asteroids that come into our the vicinity of our planets. Then we got the fifth one, which is definitely not fun. Woe, woe to those who dwell on earth. The remaining blast of that trumpet showing up with 3 angels who are about to sound. The fifth trumpet is a personified star falls from heaven. And that, to me, sounds very much like what they're trying to talk about, Lucifer and all that kind of stuff. The sixth trumpet is where we have like a 200 million mounted troops whose horses exude the plagues of fire, smoke, and brimstone. And the seventh trumpet, which signals the third and final woe. The kingdom of the world has become a kingdom of the Lord and his Messiah. So by the seventh trumpet, it's all over, basically.
Full stop. Who's to say these have to happen all at once? I'm noticing there's historical precedence to every single one of these trumpets.
That's right.
No, I mean it. Like, we are probably on the seventh trumpet right now, because I would argue that the Genghis Khan was the sixth trumpet, and the Mongol invasion of Europe. I mean, come on, man. You want horses breathing plague and just wiping out everything in their path? I don't think it gets...
Not only that, but all the world wars, even though they weren't on the same scale.
Yeah, the horse could very well be a tank.
It's steel, right.
Yeah. Could be a steel horse,
so
right, Wayne?
Yeah. I think we've been living them for a while now, What a fun, cheerful little episode.
Oh, yes, it was.
Voxx, are angels non-binary?
I'm going to straighten that out.
Okay.
Angels are beyond sex.
Well,
yeah, they're asexual.
They are not.
They are
not asexual. That's like just not caring. But they are beyond sex. What they are are like polarities, right? You know, if you study, well, no, they're not feminine. They're either active or passive. Okay. So let me show you. Based on the ancient 7 planets, you have the sun is active fire, and that particular angel that goes along with that is Michael, and the direction is the south. And he's like a vengeful angel. He will like stick you with the sword, you know what I mean? And then you have the other angels. You have the angel of the moon, which is Lavanael.
Sure.
The like neutral. It can act feminine energy, masculine energy, forceful and or passive. Then you have Mars, which is clearly an active energy. Then you have Venus, which is stable but also more passive. Then you have Jupiter, which is active, and Saturn, which is restrictive. And even though Saturn is considered to be masculine on some levels in the ancient Hebrew Kabbalah, Saturn is equated with the Great Mother and the Great Sea of Time. So those are polarities. That's a really cool question. And there's so much nonsense on so many public forums about gender and all this crap. Please give me a break. It has no real place in astrology. If you understand those things as polarities, you won't get stuck in these really ridiculous conversations with people. So is it active, passive, or neutral? And the only real neutral one is Mercury. You know,
just simply because of how dynamic Mercury is, right? He'll be whatever. He doesn't stake a claim to any one particular position, right?
Yeah, and if you think about it, the 7th trumpet, equating those with the planets has not really been done, but I'm up to the task and I will do that. But if you were thinking in terms of the 7th planet, the furthest planet from the sun, excluding Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, would be Saturn. And on that level, the 7th trumpet would very much relate strongly to the idea of Saturn, which is the reaper, cutting, ending, stopping, the cessation of time and life and all those things. So I think I'll sit around and meditate on which planet might go with which, or if you just laid them out straight, you know, sun, astrologically the order is the sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. So that would be interesting to check that out. But yeah, I mean, we never know what we're going to talk about, but clearly there's something in the air.
Do you think that there's any type of merit to the thought of opening our own bakery and calling it the 7th Crumpet?
The 7th Crumpet. Opening up.
Why not?
Oh my.
You know, cooking with the Antichrist. I don't know. Oh, what could we say?
We could open a brothel in Nevada and call it the 7th Strumpet.
Oh God.
Hey!
Oh, that dude.
Here all night, folks.
So see what you've got yourself into, Wayne.
Oh, I've known Jeremy forever, and it just does not surprise me.
Lest I wax biblical upon ye, yea, for I hath scorned the trumpet and favored the crumpet.
I have eaten the crumpet with the strumpet.
I have partaken of the crumpet. Verily do I say unto ye, where art thou, strumpet?
Eating a crumpet.
Oh my word.
That would be actually kind of a cute little pub somewhere in London. Crumpets with strumpets.
I'm telling you, there's a business model there somewhere.
I know. Copyright, trademark, trademark. Okay, so now let me check where the other planets are. And that was only one planet.
Oh my. Okay.
Is there any of this that we can actually use?
Yeah, well, I'm using almost the whole thing. It's been fantastic.
I can't wait to figure out what we're going to call this one.
Oh
Yeah.
my.
Yeah, no, we got through 2 planets, Sun in Leo and the Moon in Taurus. And by the way, the Sun and Mercury are conjunct at 8 and 9, 10 degrees Leo. So that's why our communication is so outrageous.
Whoa, that's directly. What did you? Hold on. Well, wait. You said Venus is 8 degrees Leo?
No, Mercury.
Oh, Mercury. My Mercury is 4 degrees Leo. What else do we have going on in Leo?
We got the Sun at 9 degrees.
Okay.
And that's all she wrote on the Leo front. But we got Venus and Mars in Virgo. But this is what's interesting. The Sun in Leo, Mercury in Leo. Leo is the sign that rules the tribe of Judah in the Hebrew tradition, and the tribe of Judah is the line of kings. And literally the lion king. Jude means lion. Okay. So we're talking about Jesus. We're talking about the Bible. We're talking about end times, all very biblical stuff. And you got the sun conjunct Mercury speaking very outrageously and very dramatically about end times.
Mhm.
I mean, it just is like perfect.
Yeah, that is funny.
Also, too, Jeremy, right now, Jupiter is retrograde at 29 degrees Aquarius. So very strange, interesting things are going on.
Yeah, I'm looking at my aspects right now, my natal ones, and trying to see where that falls. I don't have.
Oh, you've got Jupiter in Pisces.
No, I have Jupiter in Taurus, conjunct my moon.
I thought you. Oh, it's your rising sign.
Yeah, my rising is 0 degrees Pisces.
Well.
Oh well. Addiction,
That's
wherefore art thou?
No, it's getting pretty crazy. Anytime, Wayne, that planets are the last degree of a sign, like 29
It's very
degrees.
strong. I did astrology for years.
Oh, yeah. You see, I didn't know that. So, yeah, it's the anorectic degree, and it's just full of just nonsense and insanity. But the cool thing for the show is it's great for, broadcasting.
Right.
But wait, so there's an anorexic degree of
No, it's called anoretic degree, not anorexic degree.
It's a real thin one.
It's a real thin degree.
Malnourished degree.
Malnourished. It's got wavy lines.
Check this out. You're going to love this. Uranus right now is at exact 14 degrees conjuncting the moon. That's pretty outrageous. That's really outrageous.
Uranus is an interesting planet to me. And just Aquarius as a sign is a very interesting sign to me.
Moon is emotions, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. But something interesting.
Okay.
A follow-up from last week's show, where with a deck of tarot cards, Wayne, we were talking about Albert Einstein, and interpreting the tarot cards said that Einstein's theory of black holes would be proven to be correct. And guess what? That was a headline 3 days ago in the national newspapers.
Oh, that's cool.
They just
proved his theory?
They just proved it. And it was about being able to locate a black star from the way that the light rays bend around a black hole. So with a deck of tarot cards, I'm out here saying Einstein was correct about his theory of black holes. It's on the show.
Well, and it's very interesting too with him, because he hypothesized this at a time where he had to even infer the existence of this black body, the black hole.
Yeah.
He was inferring the existence. There was no precedent.
Yeah, but with a deck of tarot cards, I said absolutely. And I said it will be proven. And it only took a week. I'm like, what the hell? So that should be another show.
We need to pull up his chart, don't we, Voxx?
Yeah, but here's the deal. We need to have a little section in every show. Psychic versus science or whatever.
Psychic versus science. I love it.
And it was totally true. And it's a really complicated reason that proves it. That's beyond my comprehension. Yet it was a headline. So, all of these things that we're going to talk about, I'm going to post them up on my website at voxx.org. That's voxx.org. So, and people that want to have any questions answered that we think are interesting, they can also write to us at To the Moon with Voxx. It's voxx@gmail.com. And we also have a phone number too, don't we, Jer? We do. And verily, I shall quote it to thee, which is 307-212-8239. And people can also write and contact us through the email, and also visit the different kinds of stuff that we talk about on my website at voxx.org. They can contact me writing voxx.org/contact. So those are some things that people hopefully will, start sending more information and questions. And the science stuff to me and the historical stuff to me is really great.
Same here. The history fascinates me, I think, more than any single thing. And I love how antiquity carries forward to modernity. I love it. I love seeing it. I love hearing about it. I love how the Bible is still just as relevant today as it was when it was written.
I think so too. And Wayne, our great grandfather was a Southern Baptist preacher First Baptist.
Wow.
And he would be popping a wheelie in his grave if he thought I was doing this for a living.
Well, remember, he was before radio.
Oh
Yeah.
my! Before radio.
He was so charismatic, they actually built him his own church in a little place called Vasper, Tennessee.
I know where
He's
that
even
is.
buried in his own church graveyard.
Oh my
It's
goodness!
nuts.
I used to go
Yeah.
by there all the time.
Really?
Where? Vasper?
Yeah.
Are you
I mean-
kidding?
No, I mean I'm from Nashville, and I've got relatives that are in Knoxville and Chattanooga.
Oh, dude,
I
that's crazy.
I don't have anybody down in the Memphis area.
That's
Well,
because
yeah.
they all
Yeah,
got
they've all been
murdered.
shot.
Y'all been shot and run off.
We're so loving, so
Oh, I tell you,
spiritual.
yeah. Don't go there. Don't go there.
Yeah,
That's
really.
crazy. I mean, how many people know that place?
No, it's not very big. It's like where my family's from, Tracy City, Tennessee.
Gee, and I don't even know where that is.
Top of Montego Mountain,
Don't know where
which
that
is
is.
in between Nashville and Chattanooga.
Yeah, so it's on the way.
Yes, it's on the way.
That's incredible. Hey, here's a cool idea. What are like a couple of cool questions that you think might be interesting to answer with the tarot? Even like scientifically or historically, or we can wait till the next recording to do that. What do you
No,
think?
let's close it strong. I say go for it, Wayne. 3 questions.
Oh my, that I want on a tarot?
Yeah,
I mean,
just
about the future?
one. Now, wait. Now, let me give Wayne some context.
Yes,
'Cause,
please.
Wayne, you may or may not know, but Voxx reads with Crowley's Thoth Tarot deck, and it's deeply, deeply rooted with astrological significance. I believe, Voxx, I might be speaking out of turn, but every card in that deck has an astrological component to it.
Yes, every one of them. Now the cool thing too, Wayne, you
Uh-huh.
can ask questions about the past or the future. The thing about doing the future is it could take, 3 days, a week, 2 years,
Right.
20
Well,
years.
another thing about the future, it doesn't have to happen. Right? It's not
Guess
written.
what?
Right. It's choice.
Yeah.
You have choices.
Yes, you do. But here's the deal. You're the perfect person that would understand this. Imagine that the question is posited from an impetus, and the very nature and the need to ask the question has already in some way set forth the actions that will ultimately be involved in answering that question. So in other words, the very act of asking a question creates a scenario. Now, if it was total BS, I would just say, "Oh, I don't know the answer to that," right? But the cards will give us an answer, and the tarot is always correct. The only thing about the tarot is it's only as good as the person who's interpreting with it.
Right.
Sure.
And if the person hasn't studied it, for as long as I have and maybe more, then it's like pretty much worthless. It's like, yeah, you could say you have a rare book and it's in Aramaic, but it's a rare book and it's worth $1 billion, but it doesn't matter because you can't read it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But anyway, yeah. So anyway, with that in mind, even like ask a question, you might even think that you know the answer, and let's see what the tarot responds.
What would have happened if I had never left California after I left the police department and moved to Tennessee, back to Tennessee?
Okay, let's just check out. We don't even need the details.
Okay.
What would have happened if you had, in other words, stayed
in California?
Let's find out. Because I'm not invested in the answer, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
I am.
I'm just
I
going
can't wait to hear this.
You got the Cancer card, which is female energy, the Princess of Cups, female, and the Priestess. It says you would not be with the person that you are currently with.
Okay. All right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does.
And it makes sense on another level, which there was a degree of female energy that caused Wayne to leave too, if I remember the story correctly.
Go. That's correct.
However, it's really clear that whatever it was that made you leave did so in a way that was projecting you to a better future.
It did. I cannot imagine having lived that future in California.
I'm telling you, and here's the other thing too. I don't know this, but you do, is that you're incredibly intuitive.
Thank you.
However you decide that's true or not, it's actually irrelevant. You're showing with the Priestess card as your final card that you knew something was desperately wrong and you followed your intuition. which I
Correct.
get a feeling you don't always do.
Not always, but I've
Yeah.
been very lucky when it came to the life-changing choices that I made.
Yeah.
I made the right one almost every time.
I feel that you did. And Jeremy knows me well enough. It doesn't matter who a person is or how much I like them or whatever. If I disagree with what they're saying, I'll just say, hey, you're wrong. But in this case, you're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And your partner also knows this.
Yes, she does.
So it's very interesting. What's her birthday?
August the 30th, 1953.
Well, very interesting.
Youngster.
And she's smart as a tack.
Yes, she is.
Absolutely. With that birthday. And it goes very nicely with your sun in Taurus. So it's a very practical combo. You know, it's like you don't have to sit there and say, I love you, babe, like 20,000 times a day.
Nope.
You just go, you know, give her a thumbs up and it's cool. You know, where the hell else are you going to go?
Don't take her for advantage and always say thank you.
Oh,
when
absolutely.
she says something or does something for me, I'll go thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, because that's a very fussy birthday too. So if she is with you, it's because you definitely are somebody that she can get along with.
Yes.
I mean, you guys would have probably known it very quickly once you met.
Yes.
Even if it wasn't like a pie in the face, oh, I love you, you're the one for me. It's like, oh, okay, this is good.
We knew at first meeting. We knew.
That shows very clearly. So yeah, what would have happened if you had stayed?
If I had stayed.
If you had stayed, the question is answered by flipping it over, saying you wouldn't have stayed. There's no way you would have stayed because it said something was forcing you to go. And it was internal and you made the right decision. When have I ever told that to anybody, Jeremy?
No, I'm listening. That's the first.
It's like never.
But I have a question. I want a question.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. In the interest of full transparency, when I was about 15 years old, I went through a brief phase where I listened to hip hop and rap music.
Right.
As you know, I segued quickly into death metal and became a much different person. My question is, had I stayed listening to hip hop and rap at that age, how would my life have been today? How would my thoughts and opinions have been influenced by?
Well, interestingly enough, the first thing I see is you holding a gun.
Is the water gun?
I'm not even trying to see that. Wayne, what happens to me is like instant Rorschach or something. As soon as I get a question, I literally get a vision. I mean, and it could be ridiculous, but that's the first thing I saw. This is also really ridiculous. I see you wearing hats, dressing really weird. Also, I'm going to tell you straight up, you got the Knight of Swords, the Lust/Leo card, and the Eight of Cups. You would have never stayed listening to it, but had you done that, you would not be alive.
Well, now I do want to say I'm going to edit that whole bit out of the episode because I was just trying to make you guys laugh.
No.
Yeah.
But
it backfired. First off, the Eight of Cups says you wouldn't have continued listening to it.
No, of course
you
not.
would have left it. But had you forced yourself to listen to it, my feeling is a lot of the negativity that you would have heard, you might have acted upon things that you were inspired by.
Well, even if I was joking, that was kind of the serious premise behind my question, which I think people are influenced by what they listen to and who they hear speak and what kind of opinions are promulgated to them, and then I feel like they act on it. It's not to say that violent video games make people violent, but I would say that people who are violent may like violent video games. There's
right. That sounds
you know what I mean?
That's logical.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you.
I'll leave it in the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have left it sooner or later, but I just thought that was really weird. But I've had people ask me who won the World Series in 1923, and the cards were right, but I don't like to push my luck.
Yeah.
I don't like to prove things,
Right.
I just not in the mood because I don't believe a thing about what I do. I have a hard time believing like a person can make an appointment with me and spend a lot of money on my psychic opinion, and I don't really know what the hell I'm talking about, even though I've studied all the details and all of the scientific aspects of everything that I do. A person can call me up and say, can you predict my future? And how ridiculous is it that I say, yeah, sure, I can do that. It's like, I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Humility is an important component of your approach because I've known you my entire life, literally, and adding this type of confidence in your in your predictions or prophecies. I wouldn't say prophecy, but I would say predictions. Adding this type of confidence tempered by a dose of humility really helps the message get across correctly. It really allows people to listen instead of feeling like they're being preached to, or like, when they watch these infomercials. Remember the old Psychic Friends Network?
Yeah, 1-800 call psychic or
Yeah.
I was on some of those shows at different times, but interesting enough, everybody who was on those shows is dead now. I wonder if they predicted that, but it's easy to predict because we're all here in a limited time frame.
Right,
Anyway,
yeah.
you know how I roll. But it's not so much humility as a sense of wonder, like who can really do that? And it's based on, and I do think that this is correct, that all of the things that I see, quote unquote, see, whatever, they're predicated on patterns and pattern recognition. So there's something in me that can land as a compass in somebody's question, and I can sense the whole trajectory of who they are, what they've done, and based on the planetary movements, when they're going to do it again.
It's
or
weird.
not.
It's like a perpetual acid trip. Because if you ever eat acid, with a group of people, you realize you don't have to say much, and everybody knows quite a bit about the other person. I don't have a better way to describe that, but it's very, very true. There's something, there's a weird type of consciousness that underpins what we do that has nothing to do with words at all. It's raw, unbridled honesty, and you don't have to say a word.
You just know stuff. There's a word called clairsentience. Like, I'll be watching the news. I really would like to have a show where I just sit in front of a television and watch the news, and they just film my reactions. Like, this 3-year-old boy disappeared, and I'm like, he's dead. Next story.
No, you pull out the card. Yeah, ace of discs. I could have told you it was going to happen.
Seriously, I actually do this. I literally actually do this. I have a program where I can look up anything about anybody, and I use it to find out people's birth dates. And there was a situation that happened recently in another fun-filled, loving story by Voxx, where a person just moved to New York City and leapt off the 46th floor to her death, carrying her little rescue dog. And I was so pissed off.
Why'd you bring the dog?
Not about her. Just take the dog. Leave the dog.
I was so infuriated that I said, I got to look this bitch up. So I looked her up on a program and found out she was a Libra. And I did her chart. And I just had to know who was this sick person to take a poor dog, a rescue dog.
A rescue dog.
And leap from a tall building. I was so pissed off, but as soon as I saw we were planets where I went, oh, I got it. Never mind. Me too. But yeah, I'm fascinated about patterns. And I can just look at somebody, I can see what pattern they're in. And I do it to myself. I'm always self-analyzing myself, trying to figure out who am I, what am I doing, why am I doing that? And, I just try to help people get through that filter. Right. Like, why am I doing this? Are me and Bob going to work out? First off, no, because you had to ask. Just saved you $100 right there. No. Why not? Because you're a bitch. Okay. Just call it straight up. I had somebody ask me a quote unquote free question, and she wanted to know when she was going to find the love of her life. And I basically kind of told her, after you have some years of therapy. And she did not even write back to thank me for a free question. She took time out of my day.
How dare she?
Yeah.
And so I've blocked her on my phone. I'll be glad to pay one day, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
If you need a free question from me, please let it be life or death. Please let it be. There's something important. Like, when will I find the loser who will fall in love with me? It's like, never. It's like, no.
12th of never, yeah.
Yeah.
People don't come for the truth. They come to hear what they hope to hear. Well, some people come for the truth, but I think more often than not, they're going to be shocked and dismayed by the truth. They'd much rather be told what they hope to hear.
Well, here's a cool trick that you can try at home. Anybody that ever tells you to be completely honest and say, just tell it to me straight, Doc.
No, they don't want to hear that.
They are the one person who will lose their mind if you
Yeah.
Well, I'm the type of person, if you ask me that question, I will tell you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
Jeremy knows me that.
That's true.
no, don't ask
If
that
you don't want to know, don't ask me.
Just don't ask. So
Right. Because if you ask me what I feel about something, I'm going to tell you.
And guess how much money we just saved all of these people?
yeah,
A lot.
more than switching to Geico.
That's only $15.
That's true.
In 30 minutes. Yeah.
All right, guys,
Geico.
everybody. The crows are calling.
Okay.
No, tell them stop. Oh my Lord. Well, anyway, so hopefully everybody's having some fun out there listening to the insane ramblings of psychics and Freemasons.
Yeah.
And, international spies. But anyway, so keep in touch with us by writing to the moon with Voxx@gmail.com or visit my site, voxx.org. That's voxx.org/contact. And I want to thank all my Patreons and patrons, or whatever the heck you call them. Thank you guys for giving me so much great material to use. And you can also call and leave a message at 307-212-8239. And until next week, have a mystical, magical day.